What's up, guys? My name's Grayson. Welcome to the ClearCut Podcast. Just a little bit about myself. My name, obviously, Grayson. I'm 23 years old. I've been married since I was 21. I have a little kid on the way. It's a little girl. Her name is going to be Maya Joy. She is actually supposed to be here pretty much any day. And who I have here with me is...
I am Tyke Schubert. I'm married as well. Got married at 21. I am 22 now. And then I am the associate worship pastor at Connection Point Church. My wife's name is Taylor, and I don't think you said your wife's name.
Yeah, my wife is Hannah. That is her name.
Yeah, and we're trying something new. It's funny, we were coming up with the name right before we started, and we settled on a name, and I think you said a wrong one, or the other one, and so
we should start over.
Well, no, we'll just go with it. We had three names, and that's what we went with. It was a God moment, I guess. But man, God has been good this last year. I mean, almost a year and a half since I've been married. You guys going on 2 years, right?
Yeah. It's been crazy. I mean, it's been awesome. Not anywhere near where I expected I'd be at this point in my life, that's for sure, which I think we'll kind of, break into if that's something you want to start now. Just kind of go over your testimony. Just tell me, what's going on with Tyke? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so when I was born, my family was going to Connection Point. At that time, it was First General Baptist. And so I was brought up in the church. And in 2012, almost right when Pastor Chris came in, we left. We went to Crossroads, and we were in church. But there was never a relationship instilled in that at all. It was just, I went to church on Sundays if I wanted to, on Wednesdays if I wanted to, and then other than that, it was just life as normal. I would like to think I had good morals. Like I tried to not do bad things, and my family tried to keep me from doing bad things. But in 2016, 2017, I'm not sure exactly, we left, or I left the church, my family left the church. I got into the normal teenage stuff. I was drinking on occasion. I vaped nicotine products there for a little bit. And then my wife was actually the one who invited me back to church. It was 2018, August of 2018. Me and my ex had broken up at the beginning of the summer, and me and my wife started talking in August, and she invited me to the Point at Connection Point Church, the youth group, and the next week we started dating, and it took me about a year to get plugged in and serving. I started serving on the Point worship team, and ended up becoming the leader of that, and we moved into the new building that late fall into winter. And, from there, of course, we went into COVID, and that was a struggle for every church. And I'd like to say that I can relate to the struggles of upper leadership, because I was starting to get into that role of leading, not only in the youth, but also on Sunday mornings as far as worship. And we made it through. God blessed the church. And in 2021, January of 2021, I got put on part-time staff there at Connection Point, and did that entire year part-time. I was still leading the Point worship team, and like I said earlier, leading on Sundays. And then in 2022, I believe, I may have gotten those mixed up. Maybe I was part-time. It's 2023 now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was 2022 where I was part-time. 2021, I was just serving. And then January 2023, I got put on full-time. And so this year already, we started our young adult ministry. I know we've been a part of that. A lot of setup, a lot of time here at church, doing the same stuff. I took on basically another part-time position on the media team. And God has blessed myself, me and my wife, my family, beyond measure. Last year, my parents got a divorce. That was hard on the family, but right before it happened, or while it was happening, I'm not sure when this blessing came, but I got blessed with a supernatural like gift of forgiveness. It was crazy because everyone in my family, my mom, my sisters, they had resentment toward my dad, but I didn't. My dad, he messed up in that. My parents had both admitted that they fell out of love, but I was the only one that still had a relationship with my dad right off the bat. Like, I didn't judge him for it. That's what I feel that's what we're called to do as Christians. Right. So I just did life as normal and did not realize it at the time, but that was a little bit strange. I remember talking to my sisters, and they would say, like, how can you forgive him? And I actually had a conversation with Pastor Jonathan about it, because he went through something similar in high school. I was a little bit out of high school. I was 21 at the time, and the thing that he said that stuck with me was what he did as a husband has nothing to do with how he was as a dad. I was like, man, that is crazy. So I didn't have any resentment toward him, like I said. Yeah. But then, from there, God has worked in my family through that. My mom started coming back to church after the divorce, and something really awesome that it made me cry when she told me was about a month ago, she started actually tithing for the first time. She would give a little bit when she would go into church, but she actually started doing her 10% tithe. And I remember when we were on the phone, I was coming back from Cape, and I just started crying. I was like, man, that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's something I've been trying to focus on. Just, I guess, a little backstory is last year, I was selling solar. Financially was doing really, really good. And then this year I joined an internship through the church. And with my wife being pregnant and things like that, it's been hard to, hey, am I going to go get a full-time job, part-time job, things like that with how busy I am here at the church. On the side, I do some eBay reselling stuff just to get by. But that's something that God's been working on me for sure this year is just, are you still going to give when you have little? Are you still going to, help other people? Are you still going to buy a random person's meal when you feel led to? Right. And things like that? Or are you just not going to do it because you don't have, the financial stability that you did have like last year? So that's something that's definitely hit me this year pretty hard.
And I can actually relate to you. Not as drastic as yours, but my wife and I went last year from both of us working. She had a part-time job. I had 2 part-time jobs, one at the church, one at a local restaurant, and then to go to just one of us working. I got put on full-time, and so I was making okay money, but it wasn't really close to the money that I was making before. Right. And so, this year so far, she started school in the fall. It's when she quit working. It's been rough, but it's also been super rewarding because I took that as motivation to really pour into what God has me in at the moment. Yeah. I didn't go and look for more, like a ton of opportunities to make money, get another part-time job, because in all reality, ministry, like when you're working in ministry, you never stop. Yeah. Sometimes you have a 40-hour week, sometimes you have a 70-hour week.
And that's kind of where I was at too. Like, I could totally go get a part-time job, things would be okay, I'd have extra money, I would, surpass just making ends meet. But that also means I'd have to give up, probably half the things I do here, on a daily basis or nightly basis, and at the time or at the moment, I don't feel led to do that. So I don't think it's something I'm just going to jump into right now. But no, that's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So tell me a little bit about yourself. What's your testimony?
Mine's a little bit long, just because it does start at birth for me. When I was born in Tennessee. My dad actually ended up moving to Florida. So my mom decided that she should move back home to Missouri, where we are right now, just to be around family. As a single mom, she needed a job, it'd be hard to pay for babysitting and to get a job. So she went home just so family could watch me while she worked and things like that. But I was raised in a Christian household my whole life. My grandparents were pretty religious people. So growing up, I was with my grandparents a lot, just because, like I said, my mom was working all the time just to make ends meet. So I was really, I wouldn't say raised by them, but I was over there, 5 out of 7 days a week. I was really close with my grandfather. He played college basketball and ended up playing professionally. And I was really close to one of my uncles. He was about 10 years older than me, but he was super goofy, I guess, kind of like how I am nowadays. So it was very easy to relate with him, even though he was older, and he could relate with me, even though I was younger. I went to a Lutheran grade school, and then during that time, my mom actually got married to who my stepdad was. And once they got older, it was just easier for them and me to go to the same grade school, right? So they didn't have to drop me off somewhere and my sister's off somewhere else. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade of my life, I ended up going to a Catholic grade school. So Lutheran to Catholic was very different. I was definitely not used to it, but my stepfather was a Catholic at the time, so that's kind of just what he wanted. And they ended up getting a divorce. I'd say that was the first major, I guess you could say, tipping point in my life, where it was like, everything's normal and fine, and then something kind of random happened. My dad wasn't really in my life, but that's just something I was used to, right? Like that was at birth. I know my dad, we talk occasionally, but it's not normal. So once they got a divorce, that's kind of when I started dabbling in nicotine. I would just steal cigarettes out of my mom's purse and wait till she left to go somewhere and smoke them on the back porch. So that's when all that started for me. A couple months probably went by, and I started sneaking out, started smoking weed, getting high, doing all those things that I would honestly just say a lot of people do nowadays. I still believed in God. I knew Jesus died on the cross. He was real. I prayed constantly. I mean, every night before bed, it was just what I did. But the relationship, kind of like you said earlier, like there was no relationship there. I was saved at a young age, and I meant it, everything like that. So I'm not going to say, I don't know what the right word is. Like, yeah, I was probably saved, but not living the best life I could. So some time went by, and I'm about to get into high school, and my grandfather actually died of cancer. And it was a pretty sudden thing. He actually had cancer for 8-9 years, something like that, but never really told anyone in the family. They just kind of kept it to themselves. My grandparents did, until it kind of got worse. Of course, they kind of told the family, but I still was pretty young, so they didn't let me know that information yet, which I totally understand. But when it got real bad, it got pretty bad pretty quick, so they obviously informed me. We went to visit him, and, you could tell it wasn't the normal grandpa, right? Like he wasn't himself, and a couple of weeks went by. And then we saw him again, and he looked good as new, right? Like he knew everybody, he could talk. I mean, He was there was grandpa again, right? Like he's back. And then that next morning, right after that, 8 a.m., me and my mom get a phone call, and they say, you need to come to the hospital right now. And we actually get to the hospital, and he can't talk. His eyes are shut. I mean, it's just like, what happened? It was super shocking, that's for sure. And I remember everybody kind of like hugging him and stuff. And I was just like, as a younger person, I was just like, it's kind of weird. Like, he can't talk. Like, can he even hear you? Like, it was an uncomfortable situation for me. I was probably just standing there crying, to be honest. But I finally decided to walk up to him and just whisper something in his ear, because I didn't want the rest of the family to hear it. And I just kind of said, thanks for being the dad that was really never in my life. I just said, thank you for being that father figure. And he made like the weirdest sound. Like, I can't even mock it because it'd probably sound really weird and funny. But like, that was just a notion to me that like, he just heard what I said. Like, so he can hear. And I think, God played a major part in that, even though I definitely wasn't living for him. But he definitely played a major part in that, just for me and my life to just know, like, he heard that before he left. So that was super awesome. And right after that, my uncle was super close to my grandfather. The one I was talking about was pretty much my best friend at the time. He ended up moving to Dallas, Texas, just because Cape, where we live, pretty small town, just everything reminds you of everything. So he kind of just decided that he needed to get out of here and go to Texas. So in the span of me being, born all the way to 8th grade, I lost my dad pretty much, just not in my life. I lost my stepdad. I lost my main father figure, being my grandfather. and then pretty much my best friend being my uncle. And that's when I think everything kind of went deeper, like times 10, right? Like partying became a regular thing. Getting high was a regular thing. Drinking, that's when that came involved. Sneaking out all the time, sleeping around, just doing all these things that are 100% not correct, at least from a Christian standpoint. And so later on, my junior and senior year, I actually went to a boarding school in Florida. It was called IMG Academy. Long story short, I went to a camp for basketball there, and they kind of asked if I wanted to go to school there, and I just looked at my mom like, is that even an option? Like, I'm 16 years old. Are you going to let me move to Florida and do this? And she was all about it, and I was never, I never really knew what to do. So like I said, it's something I prayed about, and it was the first time I think I had a true connection or verbal connection, spiritual connection with God, because I was sitting at a stoplight, and he pretty much just said, go. And I took that as that means go to Florida, and that's what I'm supposed to do. To this day, I have no idea why, but I got down there, and things got even crazier. Surrounded by D1 athletes from football, basketball, tennis. You name the sport, it's there. Many of the people that I know and played with and went to school with are playing professional sports right now. And the way they party is much different than someone in Cape Girardeau, Missouri would party. I saw things I've never seen before, things that you would see in movies that you just don't even think are real. So yeah, things were bad. I had a girlfriend pretty much the whole time, pretty much cheated on her the entire time, drugs, alcohol, just pretty much focused on partying and basketball. Like that was it. And to end that, I kind of moved back home once I graduated and was, looking at schools to go play college basketball. I pretty much had my decision made on where I was going. And then I kind of got into an incident and had to go to the hospital. And during that hospital time, I guess you could say, the nurses found something that they weren't even really looking for. They found an issue with my heart. I don't know the correct name for it. But how they described it was we have like 4 valves in our heart. Some of mine are closed off. So pretty much my resting heartbeat would be if Tyke was taking a jog or working out or something. So when I'm just sitting here, my heartbeat is a lot faster than the average person. And they pretty much told me I would not play basketball anymore if I were you. And for some weird reason, I was 100% at peace whenever I heard that, which I thought was super, super weird because that was what I lived for. Like that was what I'm doing, especially once my grandfather passed away. Like he played in college, pro, like that's what I'm doing, 100%, no questions asked. Obviously, that didn't work out because I'm sitting here with you today. But yeah, I think that was God just filling a peace in my heart and mind and preparing me before those words were even said, that wasn't my calling and that's not what I'm supposed to do. So pretty much after all that, I just texted my grandma and said, we need to find a church. And the first church we went to was Connection Point Church. And that's the last church we went to because we walked in and it was just exactly, I think, what we were looking for. And it was at an old building. I was, like Tyke was saying, just a churchgoer. The first thing I did was probably a couple months into it, I got involved in a small group. Hey, there was free food. Like, I'm going, but it was cool. They were all younger people, younger married couples. So they were all nice, super awesome, super welcoming. I felt, I didn't feel weird being there, like I didn't fit in or anything like that. But eventually, they got to the new building. Pastor Jonathan, which is our youth pastor that he was kind of talking about earlier, really got involved in my life, kind of wanted me in the youth ministry and things. But I guess I'll back up just a little bit. I rededicated my life once we were in the new building, and our online media pastor, Darren DeLoach, actually said the salvation prayer with me at the altar and got me saved, which is a crazy story in itself. That's kind of the end of the testimony there. So he got me involved on the media team. Like I said, Pastor Jonathan got me involved with the youth and things like that. I was more involved with the church than I ever have been and didn't really even know that was a thing you could do. But I fell in love with it. And finally, I was at a church or at Connection Point at one point. And the Saturday night before church service, I actually prayed to God. I was like, I just want to give it to you, right? Like there was things I already gave up, right? I got saved and I stopped doing certain things at certain times. But I just told God I'm done with like the female relationships and the sleeping around and doing things, the wrong, ungodly relationships that, most people would probably live in. Yeah. And then that next morning at church, there's a girl on stage, of course. And I like almost got mad at God because I was like, I literally just told you, like, I'm done with this. And you're going to put this girl on stage who I
Yeah.
swear every spotlight was on her. Prettiest girl I've ever seen in my life. And I messaged her on Instagram and she didn't answer.
Oh man, so you slid into her DMs.
Yeah. And she didn't respond.
Man, she didn't answer.
No. Which was really weird for me. Like at the time, right? Like that didn't just happen. Like
Right.
they usually answered. At least say
Right,
no.
because you were still driving your big truck right then, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
all the girls fell for that.
Yeah, sure. Something. This one didn't like the big truck at the time that I had, but eventually after unsending and resending the message about 6 times, her little
man.
sister answered for her, which I didn't know it was her little sister at the time. But long story short, we dated for 4 months, got engaged, and got married within the first year. So that is my wife, Hannah, that we were talking about. And just the craziest part about that entire testimony to me is that the guy, the online pastor that said the salvation prayer with me is Hannah's dad, so my father-in-law now. So I think that's just the craziest thing to me is that right there for sure.
That is crazy. So we both have kind of similar testimonies. You know, it's a prodigal son testimony.
Yeah.
You know, other than getting our father's inheritance and just leaving, we can relate. And I won't say that a prodigal son testimony is a better testimony than anyone
Right.
else.
It sounds better on a podcast,
Right.
but
But
to each their own for sure.
yeah, I applaud though people who don't have a prodigal son testimony and just stayed in forever, because that's faithfulness. And even from a young age, like it's so hard to actually get bought in and have a relationship. I know when I was younger, that wasn't really taught to me to have a relationship with Jesus, because it was just, you just went to Sunday school.
Yeah, my wife, Hannah, that we were talking about, is kind of that type of testimony, right? Like her family was involved in church. Her dad works at a church. So she was just kind of always been in it. Like, right, I'm not saying she was, perfect, and she won't tell you she was, anything like that. She slipped up and did some things she didn't want to do, but the conviction overweighed the fun for her. And, like I was still convicted, but I enjoyed it,
Right.
So seeing her story and my story, right, like just complete opposites. Like if it's been done wrong, the husband's done it, and if it's as close to perfect as you can get, it's my wife. And then God brings that together from the standpoint of how shy she is to how outgoing I am. It's crazy to just even see that in our own marriage and how the differences and how God's just brought that together in our life for sure.
Right. And my wife is somewhat similar. Her parents raised her in church. She never walked away from her faith, from God. So it's crazy that we have not only the same story, but then our wives are similar. But we're not saying our wives are perfect.
Yeah.
Everyone messes up, everyone sins. It's the nature of the fall of man. So
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something new. We're trying to get started here. It got brought up in conversation this past Sunday with Pastor Michael, the young adults pastor at Connection Point. We felt like this is what God wants us to do right now. We even spent all afternoon, trying to set up the set. But
yeah, we're not professionals.
Yeah, not at all.
And I don't want to be. I just
Yeah.
want to be two dudes sitting here talking about life, and if we can help somebody, cool. And if we're just interesting to others, that's awesome.
Yeah, some people don't want to listen to professionals,
Right.
because they just know what they're talking about.
That's true. Right. The
Some
words
people-
they use are really good.
Some people want to listen to people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Then they can laugh at us,
Yeah. That's fine.
which
I'll
is
take
okay. Yeah,
laughter.
laugh at us,
Yeah.
please. But yeah, we're gonna try to do this. I don't know, once a week.
That's the goal.
Once a week, yeah. We'll dive deeper. Go into Christian lifestyle.
Yeah.
We're both young married men. He's got a daughter on the way.
Yep.
I about called her a son.
Yep. The due date is April 10th. I don't know when you'll be seeing this, but I guess if I have a kid like tomorrow, you'll be seeing this after I have the kid.
Yeah, today's March 30th.
Yeah.
So very, very close. I think it's about it.
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, we do a Bible study. He leads it. It's at his house. I'm there. We've got a few other people there, and so we may talk about that a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just going to be life in general. We'll talk about the Bible, talk about our relationships with God and what goes on. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.
Peace.